Welcome back again, everyone. So let's solve this problem. It states a source file is used to answer this question. The file is called q.text, right? Now, a cafe wants to manage its to-go orders using a linear queue. So one thing you should note in this question is what? A linear queue. It might also be a circular queue. So you need to put that into consideration. So to underline that and be sure. A program is written using what? Object-oriented programming to manage these orders. The customers have input their orders through the cafe's website. The customer's record, which is the order ID, is saved in a text file called what? q.text. So the customer's ID are saved from the website. It's as easy as that. Now, the class order record stores the customer's record. So this is what stores the customer's record. So the class is what? Order records. Are we supposed to start typing at this point? No. Order ID is a string. Stores the order ID. Constructor initializes order ID to its what? Parameter value. So that means a parameter value must be set here. Get ID returns the customer's ID. Write program code to declare the class order records, its constructor, and what? And get method. Do not declare order method. There's no other method actually. Use your programming language appropriate constructor. All attributes must be private. If you are writing in Python, include what? Attribute declaration using comments. So let's now write. So we are asked to declare the class order records. So that should be class order records. Isn't it? It says that and its constructor and get method. So what is the constructor? The def init is the constructor, isn't it? What is the function that must be passed? Solve. And what is the parameter? Order ID. Order ID is the parameter. I can write order. Do you know? I can write anything here, isn't it? So what is the attribute? Initialize to the attribute value, right? So that means to be self dot order ID is equal to what? Order. It's as simple as that. Anything remaining? Okay, the order ID is what? It is string. Don't forget, it is string. And what is the next thing? The get ID, isn't it? Then I should have def get ID self, isn't it? What does it return? The customer's ID. And what is the customer ID? Which is the order ID. So it should return self dot order ID. Is this understood? That is just 3 marks, guys. It's as simple as that. The next question. The class order queue. The class order queue manages the collection of order records objects in a queue. So this wants to manage, this class wants to manage the collection of, order record stores the customer's ID, isn't it? So this class wants to manage the collection. So how does it manage the collection? So that first in that goes in, goes out first, isn't it? That is how it's managed. I told you a key is what? Is an operation, isn't it? That's what I told you guys. So this is the first in, first out. So this is the class order queue. Queue head, integer, points to the first element in the queue. You have to underline this as well. Queue tail integer points to the last element in the queue. This is very, very important. Queue array, array 0 ratio 5 of record means how many elements should be in this array? That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. This is used to what? To implement the queue. Understood? Used to implement the queue. It says constructor initialize L2 minus 1. The constructor initialize L2 minus 1. Does it say parameter value? No. It just said minus 1. Does not say parameter value. That means there is no parameter here. Initialize Q to what? Till to minus 1. Initialize all 6 elements to order record of -1, not -1. A lot of students wrote -1, which is wrong, but should be the order record. That means it's an object. Is that understood? Because what you can only save to this array is an object, not a string, not an integer. That was why he said Q array of order record. He did not say Q array of integer. Did not say Q array of string. Is that understood? So when you saw this -1, you should have known that -1 is not supposed to be initialized, because this array does not keep integers, does not keep string. It only keeps objects of what? Order record. Even the instruction even says to order records of -1. Is that understood? So that is what you should save to that array. Are we supposed to write yet? Not yet. And Q adds element to the queue. Fine. The queue returns the first element in the queue. Fine. Queue validation, validate the order ID. Now the question states, write program code to declare the class order queue and is what? Construction. Private this. So let's write that now. So what is the class? Order queue. Okay. Then the next one is what? Is the constructor, isn't it? So that will be def init. So self. Any parameter? No parameter. That's all. If you pass a parameter, you are wrong. No parameter. So the question says that there are how many attributes here? 3 attributes, isn't it? Which is what? Which is the QEd. That will be self dot QEd. QEd. Does this mean you will not put a self because there's no parameter? It is the self that makes it its attributes. Is that understood? If there is no self, then it is not an attribute. Is that understood? That means it's just a local variable. Some students do not add self because there was no parameter. No, that is wrong. There must be a self. Okay. So self.qed is equal to what? -1, isn't it? Is equal to -1. Simple. What is the next thing? Self.q is equal to what? -1. And the next is what? Self.q array. Self.q array is equal to, if you like, make it empty and use the for loop to initialize the value, or if you like, write that what? It is order records of what? -1. How many -1? Yes, because this parameter must be a string. That was why they say string of -1. So if you don't make -1 a string, then you are still wrong. Is that understood? Because you must pass a string. Don't forget. So how many of these should be there? 6 multiplied by 6. A lot of students wrote -1 times 6 only, which is wrong. Understood? Good. Is that all? Yes, that is all. And these how many marks? 5 marks. So don't forget what? The declaration. Okay, good. Now the next question. II, enqueue. The enqueue method takes an object data of type object record to insert into the queue as what? Parameter. That means it takes how many things as parameter? 1. And it must be a what? An object of type what? Order record. Isn't it? If the queue is not full, it inserts the parameter in the queue. Update the appropriate what? Pointers. And returns true. This true, is it a string or a boolean? It's a boolean, not a string. If the queue is full, it returns what? False. Write program code for what? Enqueue. So let's now write. Enqueue is in this class, isn't it? And you must pass a what? Itself as a what? Parameter, isn't it? Oh, there's one other parameter, right? Let me just write value. Although it's an object, isn't it? Just write any parameter. Are we all listening? Good. Now, after doing that, if the queue is not full, so how do you know it's not full? You use tail pointer to know if it's not full, right? If tail pointer is less than what? Because pointer now points to the what? To the last element. And we have 0 to 6. So that means if tail pointer is pointing to 6, it means the queue is full. If the tail pointer is less than 6, it means the queue is not full, isn't it? So that means we have to write if self dot queue tail is what? Less than 6. Is that understood? Then this is not full. If we write less than or equal to 6, is that correct or wrong? That is wrong. That means you are defining tail pointer, the queue tail, as pointing to the next available space. Do you know that? Good. If it's less than 6, it is not full, isn't it? If it is not full, what is the first thing we have to do? Do we insert the element to the position of the tail pointer? What do we do first? So, the first thing is to increment the tail pointer. So, self dot qtail plus equal to 1. You now add that value to that position. So that would now be what? The self dot q array self dot q tail is equal to what? Value. Isn't it? Very simple. After doing that, you will now check the status of what? Of head pointer, isn't it? Then you now write if self dot q edge is equal to -1, then what? Self dot q edge is equal to 0. So, what is the next thing? So, if it is not full, it inserts an update that has been done and return what? True. Then you now do what? After adding, you return true, not a string. But what if it's not added? What do you return? Return false. It's as simple as that. That is all, everyone. That's all. The next one, dequeue, isn't it? The method dequeue returns what? False. But this false, is it a string or a boolean? It's a string, not a boolean. That will be def dequeue. Then self. Any parameter? No. So it says that returns false if the queue is what? Empty. How do you know if the queue is empty in this case? So you have to check if it is what? If it's empty, return false. So if empty, if what? If self dot what? Dot q head is greater than what? Self dot q tail. Right? Or you can put this in brackets to avoid confusion. Or self dot what? Qtail is equal to what? -1. Then this is empty, isn't it? What do you return? Return false. You return false. Is that understood? So what if it is not empty? If the queue is not empty, it returns what? The next element in the queue, which is what? Which is the first, isn't it? So how does it do that? What do I write now? So that means VAR is equal to what? Self dot Q array, isn't it? Should be head or head plus 1? Self dot what? Q head. Is that understood? If you return the Q head, isn't it? Then what? Updates. Then that means that what? Self dot what? QH is equal to what? QH plus 1. Then make, because it has returned the first element, then make the next one to be the what? The first element. Is that understood? So, is this a circular queue? Do we check the status of the tail pointer? No. Is that understood? After doing this, is that all? Then what do? We return. It says that returns and updates. So let's return. So what do? Return VAR. Guys, this is all. Now question C. Don't forget this is 6 marks. You have to spend how many minutes? 12 minutes on this, isn't it? So it states the values to be stored in the queue are the customer record to be read from the text file. Some ID values are erroneous. Thus, the valid customer record needs to be stored only in the queue. That is, only the valid value needs to be stored in the queue. The valid customer record is what? 7 characters long. The first 6 characters are what? Digits. And the 7th character is a check digit. The check digit is calculated from the first 6 digits using the algorithm. Like I said, the first time you may not really understand what you have read, right? So you need to read the second time or to go to the example. For every unclear statement, there will always be an example. So if you don't really understand what you have read, then see the example. The example will guide you through. Is that understood? So there is no long question like this without an example. So go to the example. Multiply the digits in position 1, position 3, and 5 by 4. Multiply digits in positions 0, 2, and 4 by 3. Calculate the products, divide the sum by 7, and use the remainder to get the check digits, for example. Now, let's assume you did not understand everything you've read. You read the first time, second time, third time, you did not understand. Now you did not understand, so let's see the example because you did not understand. Data is 954,123. 95, can you see digits? 954,123. What is digit 0? 9. Digit 1, 5. Digit 2, up to this, isn't it? Now, multiplier of digit 1 is what? 3. 4. 3. 4. So 3 times 9 is what? 27. 5 times 4 is what? 20. 3 times 4, 12, up to this. Then what is the sum of product? You add everything together. After adding everything together, then you divide by what? 7. When you divide by 7, what do you get? The remainder is what you need. So that means, are you supposed to divide in your real code? What are you supposed to do? The modulus, not floor division. Now, the check digit is 4. That means this remainder is the check digits. So the data, including the check digits, is now what? 954,123,4. Is that understood? So does everyone now understand this calculation? So even though we do not understand the previous ones, we should be able to understand this example. So if you understand this example, you don't have to worry again. Let's now move forward. The order ID is valid if the 7th character matches the check digits. For example, the data 954,123,5 is invalid because the 7th character is what? 5. But what was our calculation? 4. That was why it was invalid. That means you use the last value to check the what? The validity. Is that understood? Good. It now says the method Q validation in the order Q class. So you now go to the order Q class. Is it there? Yes. Validates the order ID. So you will go back to the order Q class to write that. So it now says the method Q validation takes the order ID as a what? Parameter. So let's now write. So def Q validation self order ID as a parameter. Is that understood? Takes the order ID as a parameter. Now the question states, calculate what? The validity of the order ID. So how do you calculate? You now use what? the previous. Now, order ID, is it a string or an integer? It's a string. Why? You go back to your table to get order ID. Is that understood? To check for order ID. So order ID is a string. There is no way you can make calculation on a string. Is that understood? But you can access each digit of a string, isn't it? Is that correct? I taught you guys string manipulation, isn't it? So you go back to that video to understand string manipulation and use that to solve this problem. Now, so it now says that calculate. So how do you calculate? You check each character in the what? In the string. So you now don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so that you can enjoy more content from me. Thank you. Now let's continue. Now write that the fourth character is equal to order ID 0. Yes or yes? That is the fourth character. So that means because of my laziness, then I copy and continue to paste second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So this should be second, this should be third, this should be fourth. I can write it anyhow. Okay, F-O-U-R-T-H. Then this should be fifth, and this should be sixth. Then this will be 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Is that not correct? According to that formula, 0 to 5. But I want to do mathematical operation on them. But don't forget they are still string. That means I must convert to what? Integer. So that means I must go back to my code and write what? Integer. Control C. Integer. 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 And integer. Then I have to close this bracket, right? And close. And close. And close. Oh, sorry, not end. Up. Up. Okay, let me do this way. I have those 6 values, then I'll go back to the question. It says that the sum of products. So sum is equal to what? The product, isn't it? You add the product. That will be what? That will be 4. Multiply by what? Multiply by 4. Is it 4? Multiply by 3. 0. Character 0 is 3. Multiply is 3. Understood? Multiply by 3. Then plus second. Multiply by what? 4. Multiply by 4. Understood? Plus what? Okay, let me just copy all these. Control C. Then 0, 1, 2. And what? So this is fourth, second. Then let me just copy this. Third. Because of my time. Fourth. Fifth. And what? Sixth. Is it complete now? So let me confirm. Fourth 3, second 4, third 3, 4, 3, 4. Is that understood? Then I add them together. So the sum has been added, right? What is now the next thing? Find the remainder, isn't it? So that implies that then I write that check digit check is equal to sum modulus 4. Now this is now the remainder. Sorry, 7. This is now the remainder. I will now check this remainder to the what? To the last character, isn't it? So last is equal to integer order ID of what? Of 6 or minus 1 as the case may be. The last character. Is that understood? Then what do I do? Then I check if what? If check, which is the check digit, isn't it? Is equal to last. That means it is what? It is valid. Is that understood? That means it is valid. So the question now states, it says that returns valid if the order ID is what? Valid. So that means it should return valid. Valid. Else, what does it return? Return invalid. Is this understood, everyone? That is the end of that question, my brother and sister. Good. So return invalid, that is the end of that question. Now question B. Question D says, write the main program code. Now the main program. So df main. The main program code. 2. Declare an array, file array, local to the, is it a global array? No, local. So let's write file array. That's it. Oh, sorry, equal to. Okay. Now the question states that read all items from the text file and save them in the what? Just read everything and save it in the array. My text file, I save it as string.txt, unlike your text, which is queue.txt. So let me read. Then I write, what is the next thing? Try, except, exception, as error, then print error. Then I go back and write try. What do I do? With open, then strings dot, it should be q.text in your own case as what? 5, isn't it? Then it should be what? For line in file. Then I should have line is equal to line dot what? Dot strip. Because of the special character, nobody will ask you to do that in your exam, isn't it? Then I write file array dot append what? Line. Everything has been added in the array. It's as simple as this, guys. Okay, good. Now, what is the next thing? Create an instance of what? Order queue with the identifier the queue. So that means I have to write, after all this, then I write the queue is equal to what? Order queue. Any parameter passed? That's all. Identifier has been created. It says validates each order ID save where? In the array. So you now take each of them. When you see each in your question, what should come to your mind? A for loop, isn't it? Then I write for index in file array. I want to take each value, or let me write for value or for elements. I want to take each element in the array. Each element. You can also use in range of length, then use file array in square brackets. Is that understood? But this is the faster way I can do it. So for elements in file array, you should take each value. So what does it say? Validates. How do you validate, everyone? You go to what? You use this to validate. And this method is from what class? From the order queue class. And the order queue has been what? Instantiated, isn't it? So that means you, and it doesn't return anything. So it says value is equal to the queue dot what? Queue validation of what? Elements. Simple. You validate. Is that understood? What will be returned? Either valid or invalid. So if it is valid, what happens? It returns what? Valid, isn't it? So if value is equal to, not, is it true or valid? It's valid because it either returns valid or invalid according to what you wrote in the queue. It either returns valid or invalid. That was what you wrote, isn't it? Good. If it is valid, what should happen if it is valid? Does it say enqueue? What does it say? Create an instance. It does not say enqueue. It does not say enqueue. It says create and it says validate each. After validating, then create an instance. We haven't created, have we? No. So the question says validate, but to validate, you must go to the class to validate. After validate, what do you do? Create an instance of what? Order record. For what? Each valid. That is for that valid. Create an instance of it. So let's create an instance of it. So write instance. Instance is equal to instance of what? Order record. Order records. Of what? Order record require how many parameter? 1. And that one is what? Is the order ID. That is the valid ID, isn't it? Which is now what? Is it value? What is it? Elements. Is that understood? Elements. Create an instance. That was what the question says. Create an instance. After creating an instance, it now says what? And enqueue each instance. That means different instance, not the same one. Each instance in the what? In the queue. Then you now use what? Queue dot what? Enqueue. Is that understood? What do you enqueue? Instance. Does it return anything? So let's check. Let me check. Enqueue. Enqueue return either true or what? False. True if it's added, false if it's not added. Then you now what? Then you now write Boolean is equal to this. Is that understood? Because it can return what? A true or false. Output a suitable message if the record was what? Whether or not. That is, if it's added, output. If it's not added, output. A suitable message. So if it's output, that means if Boolean is equal to what? True. Is it true or in string or true? Okay, it's a Boolean. Then print item added successfully. Isn't it? It now says else. What do you print? The queue is full. Isn't it? Then is that all? No. Else. What if it is not valid? That was what the question says, whether or not. So at every point it was not added. Is that understood? Else print invalid value. Is that understood? Guys, that is all. 5 marks. You should spend 10 minutes on that. The last question states, the cafe manager wants to get the values from to process the orders. Write the program to amend the main program. So let's go back to the to what? To amend. So that means after writing this, you get out of the for loop to amend. What are you amending to do? Prompt the user to input the number of records to what? To fetch. So user is equal to integer input. Enter the number of records to what? Fetch. Isn't it? To fetch. And what? Output the ID from the queue in the suitable message. An example for 3 customers is as follows. So this is an example. Can you see that? So let's now do that. So you now write, you need a for loop, isn't it? For index in what? Range of what? User. Number of times user input, isn't it? Then you now print a format. Then because it is customer one's order. Customer. What is 1? That will be index plus 1. One's order ID is the number, that is the first number from the queue, isn't it? And that means you have to call what? you need to call the queue first, isn't it? So how do you call the queue? From the queue instance, isn't it? So that would be the queue dot what? The queue. Does it return anything? Yes, it returns something. What does it return? Either false or the value, isn't it? Then you now write that value is equal to this. Then after writing this, then you write if value is equal to what? False. Then the queue, print rather. Print the queue is empty, isn't it? So else, then you print this. Is what? Is the value dot get id. So that will give you the actual value, isn't it? Because get id, according to the question, will return what? Can you still remember? It will return the customer's id. Is that understood? So if I write value dot get id, is that actually correct? Good. Because the value returned here is an what? The value returned is an object, because only an object is saved in the what? In the queue. So the value is an object. Is that understood? So after this, then you call the main program, isn't it? Before you now run your code. Main. So the next question says that after doing all this, test your program with what? 7 as input. Then you run your code and okay, good. So if you see something like this, so let's try and see what the problem is. List assignment index out of range. So if you take a look at this, some items were added. How many items supposed to be added? 6. Then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 was added. So that means it wanted to add the seventh one, right? Then the index was out of range, and that method that has issue is the enqueue method at the line where the value is added to the array, the queue array. So we go back to that line. So this is the method that have the issue, and this is a line of code. So that means this if statement is the problem. The problem is this less than 6. Like I said, this queue array has space for how many elements? 6, which is from 0 to 5 and not 0 to 6. So if you now say less than 6, that means you want it to accept 7 elements instead of 6 elements. Because 0 to 5 is how many? 6. So that implies that this should be less than 5 and not less than 6. Is that understood? Because it should only accept 6 elements. So if you run this code again, then that message is now clear. No more out of range. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 elements have been added. The other elements are valid, but they are not added because the queue is full. Is that understood? They are valid. And you can see some elements are invalid. So how many records do you want to fetch according to the question? 7. So let's take a look at this. 7 is now fetched. Don't forget, 7 is fetched from the queue, not from the array. Is that understood? According to the question, the queue returns what? The element in the queue. And the question asks you to output from the queue, not from this file array. That was most students does. They did not dequeue, they only output from the array, which was wrong. So let's go back to this code. Then you see that I have how many items? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can only have 6 items, isn't it? Because only 6 elements was what? Was added. Then I'm trying to fetch the 7 item, right? So what is the result? The queue is empty. Cannot fetch the 7 item. So this complete screenshot is what earns you that mark for the output. Is this understood? So good. Thank you.